Scientific proof. You rest in the quiet, and the quiet rests in you. The day has slipped away, its edges fading like ink in water, until all that remains is a stillness so deep it feels like it has always been here. Your breath is soft, unhurried, the kind of breathing that happens when you no longer need to hold anything up. In this silence, you begin to notice something else. A hum, faint and steady, beneath the skin of reality. It is not sound, in the way you know sound. It is vibration, like the warm thrum of a heartbeat you didn't realize you were leaning against. This is the quantum field before thought, before choice, before the waves of possibility collapse into form. Here, you are not yet doing. You are not yet deciding. You are simply present, and presence itself is the first movement. The observer effect whispers here that what you notice notices you back. The field is not distant. It is pressed against you, attentive, as if waiting for the subtle tone of your being to tell it what to become. Every unspoken desire drifts here, like seeds suspended in still water. They do not push forward. They do not rush to sprout. They wait, because the waiting is part of their shape. You feel them in the air around you, threads of reality you have not yet touched, but that already know your name. The nervous system, too, feels this shift. The pulse of the day's urgency slows, and your body begins to remember what it's like to live without constant reach. Your shoulders drop, your jaw releases, and your mind loosens its grip. You realize that manifestation is not only about intention, but also about the state from which that intention is born. The soil matters as much as the seed. In this moment, there is no need to choose. The quantum field holds every version of you, every life, every timeline, every future, as easily as the ocean holds its tides. The choice will come later. For now, it is enough to feel the texture of possibility without forcing it into shape. You let the mind rest in open space, where thought is not yet a sentence, only the shimmer of its beginning. You let the body feel safe enough to unclench from the habits of yesterday. You let the heart beat without defending itself. The soft opening of the field is not a door you step through. It is the slow awareness that you were never outside to begin with. You have always been here, breathing inside the same space that breathes you. It begins as a feeling you can't quite name, a slight heaviness in your chest, a familiar tightening in your throat. The mind tries to move forward, but the body lingers, holding on to something older than this moment. It is not trying to stop you. It is simply remembering. Long before you speak the words "I want to change," your nervous system carries the echoes of every place you have been, every moment it had to keep you safe. These memories don't live in pictures or sentences. They live in muscle, in posture, in the rhythm of your breath. They live in the way you hesitate before stepping into something new. This is not punishment. It is residue. The quiet drag of unfinished stories the body still believes it needs to protect. And when you slow down enough to notice, you feel them. The old pulses, the old contractions, like faint ripples from a stone dropped long ago. There is a difference between the stillness born from safety and the stillness born from fear. Fear freezes, holding everything in place so nothing can slip through. Safety softens, letting the edges blur, letting movement return on its own. In this moment, you learn to listen for the difference. Your body speaks in sensation, not language. A knot in your stomach might be the memory of a time you weren't allowed to speak. Tension in your shoulders might be the weight of responsibility you carried too young. The shallow breath might be the body's way of staying invisible. You don't have to force these patterns to dissolve. You only need to notice them, as you would notice the tide turning. Awareness is the bridge, the first step in rewriting the body's story without tearing it apart. And here, in this soft noticing, you feel the observer effect again. The moment you witness without judgment, the pattern shifts. The nervous system begins to recognize it is no longer trapped in the past moment. It was protecting you from. The grip loosens, not because you demanded it, but because it finally feels safe to do so. This is where quantum manifestation begins, not in affirmations or action plans, but in the quiet recalibration of your state. The signal you send to the field comes as much from your muscle memory as from your thoughts. When the body learns a new way to rest, the mind follows. You lie back and let the mattress hold you. You allow your breath to deepen, not because you are trying, but because your body has been given permission to arrive here. The old echoes are still there, but they are fading, becoming background to the present hymn. There are moments when you feel you have moved on, yet something still tugs gently at the edges of your life. It is not loud. It does not demand attention, but it is there, a quiet pull like a current beneath still water. You are not being held back by force. You are being held by something you cannot yet see. Some paths do not dissolve because they are still being fed. Memories you thought were long forgotten still breathe in the dark corners of your mind. Emotions you believed had softened still hum faintly in the background. Identities you thought you had outgrown still live inside your posture, in the way you hesitate, in the way you speak your own name. These are the invisible threads, not chains of steel, but filaments of light and shadow, woven from the past into the present. They stretch across time in a way that feels almost impossible, as though the moment that formed them is still alive, still reaching for you. This is the strange nature of attachment. It does not always live where you can see it. Like quantum entanglement, these bonds defy distance. They exist in a dimension where moments do not pass, but remain layered, ready to be reactivated by a glance, a word, a thought you didn't know you still carried. It isn't about holding on in the conscious sense. It's about the subtle exchanges that happen in the unseen, energy continuing to circulate between what was and what is. You begin to notice them not as punishments, but as mirrors. Each thread reflects something you have not yet fully met within yourself. The longing for closure, the echo of a choice you wish had been different, the comfort of an old identity, even if it no longer fits. Awareness shifts everything. Once you see the thread, you can trace it. You can ask it why it is still here, and in this noticing, you begin to feel the first loosening of the knot. Not because you cut the cord in haste, but because you understand it now. You see how it was protecting something tender, how it was trying to keep you from falling into the same unknown that once felt dangerous. This is the quiet work, to hold the thread in your awareness without judgment, until it no longer needs to hold you. You don't pull, you don't force. You simply stand in the present, watching the past lose its grip, because the energy that fed it is finally returning home. The field shifts with you. The signals you send begin to change, not because you declared it so, but because you are no longer tangled in what you cannot see. It doesn't happen with a crash. It doesn't split the air or leave you in ruins. Letting go is quieter than that, a soft unwinding, a dissolving of edges. The reality you once held so tightly begins to loosen, not because you forced it away, but because your attention has shifted. You notice how long you have kept certain waves standing. They held their shape because you looked at them every day. The memory, the story, the belief. Each glance was a thread of energy, weaving the same moment over and over again. Now, as your gaze softens, something changes. The wave no longer holds. The surface begins to flatten, not in destruction, but in returning to the stillness beneath all movement. This is the quiet nature of collapse in the quantum field. When you no longer observe an old reality, it does not need to exist. Without your constant feeding of attention, the pattern drifts back into possibility, where it is weightless, unformed, free. This is the observer effect, felt not as science on a page, but as a gentle release in the body. You begin to feel the subtle difference between loss and liberation. Loss aches. It resists. It tells you something has been taken. Liberation, though, feels like space returning. A soft breath in a room you didn't know had been sealed shut. The nervous system, once braced for impact, begins to unclench. Shoulders drop. The jaw softens. The heart beats without hurry. And in that loosening, something unexpected happens. The energy you once tied to an old timeline flows back into you. It arrives quietly, like water seeping into dry earth. You feel more whole, not less. What you thought you were giving away was never leaving you at all. It was simply returning to its origin. Release does not strip you of what matters. It strips you only of what can no longer serve. Every old reality that falls away leaves behind an opening for something you cannot yet imagine. The space itself is the gift. As you rest here, you realize the collapse is not the end of a story. It is the story's return to the blank page. You can write again. You can choose again. And this time the choice will not be made from fear, but from the quiet knowing that you are no longer bound to what you have been. You lie back into this awareness, feeling the field hold you, vast and without edges. The waves you once kept standing have melted into the calm sea of infinite beginnings. You stand in the quiet after release, and something begins to shift. It is not movement you can see, but a hum you can feel, a faint vibration in the air around you, like the low note of a song that hasn't yet begun. The space is neither empty nor full. It is a room lined with doors you have not opened. Here, there is no rush. You do not run toward a future or beg it to arrive. You stand in its presence, the way you would stand in a garden just before dawn, knowing the light will come, whether you reach for it or not. Your breath slows, the body listens, and as you listen, you sense the quiet conversation between who you are and who you are becoming. Each possible future has a texture. Some feel jagged, restless, born of old survival patterns. Others feel fluid, warm, almost familiar, as though they have been waiting for you longer than you have been looking for them. This is resonance, not chasing, but matching. You do not need to force your way into what is already yours. You need only learn its frequency and let yourself hum in tune. It feels like remembering, like recognizing a voice in the dark before the words are spoken. The nervous system softens here because there is no need to prove or perform. This is the opposite of striving. It is the art of standing still until your field and the field of your chosen reality are indistinguishable. In quantum language, this is coherence. When two patterns become so aligned, they move as one. In the body, it feels like quiet confidence. In the mind, it feels like a truth that needs no defense. Your thoughts stop reaching forward and instead begin to settle into the now, weaving themselves into the fabric of the reality you have decided to hold. You notice the way attention works here. Whatever you touch with your awareness begins to grow brighter, more tangible. A future is not built by effort alone, but by the gentle, consistent feeding of energy. And as you stand in this room of unchosen paths, you choose not with urgency but with devotion. Some futures fade when you turn away. Others deepen when you linger with them in thought, in feeling, in the quiet rehearsal of already having arrived. The choice becomes less about doing and more about being. This is where quantum manifestation is not a leap, but a settling. The point at which you inhabit the frequency so fully that the outer world has no choice but to follow. You breathe, letting the hum of your chosen path surround you until it feels less like a dream and more like home. It is not the force of your voice that reality hears. It is the quiet tone beneath it, the hum that your body carries even when you are silent. Every thought is a pebble dropped into the still water of the field. Every breath is a wave, moving outward, touching everything in its path. You have been sending signals your entire life, whether you knew it or not. Signals of fear or faith, scarcity or abundance, trust or tension. The field does not judge them, it simply reflects them back. The truth is, reality responds less to what you say you want, and more to the state you live in when no one is watching. When your mind races ahead, but your body holds the memory of old fear, the signal splits. You ask for one thing, but radiate another. This is not failure, it is feedback. The field is showing you the exact frequency you are broadcasting, so you can tune it with intention. Coherence begins when mind, heart, and body agree, when the story you tell yourself matches the emotion you feel, and when both settle into the body as safety. In that state, the signal grows stronger, clearer. The hum of your being becomes a steady tone that the field can recognize and return to. Imagine it like a lantern in the dark. At first, the light flickers uncertain, casting shadows that confuse the shapes around it. But when you steady your breath, when your thoughts slow and your heart stops bracing for what might go wrong, the flame steadies. The glow reaches farther. It calls to the experiences, people, and opportunities that match its warmth. In quantum language, this is coherence, the synchronization of your internal systems into one unified frequency. In the language of the body, it feels like relief. In the language of the soul, it feels like coming home. This is not about perfection. The signal you send is not ruined by a passing doubt or a moment of fear. What matters is the baseline you return to. The body listens to patterns, not isolated moments. The field does the same. Each time you choose calm over chaos, truth over performance, trust over control, the signal strengthens, and slowly the world begins to respond differently. Conversations shift, coincidences appear, doors open without force. You begin to see the subtle choreography of a reality reshaped by the tone you carry. You are no longer speaking to the field with desperate hands reaching forward. You are becoming the signal itself, a steady pulse of coherence, safety, and intention. There comes a point when you stop pushing against the world, not because you have given up, but because you have learned that the river does not need your constant steering. The current was always moving. It was your tension that made it feel still. In this space, you begin to feel the difference between action, born from fear, and action born from alignment. Fear makes you run ahead, clutching at possibilities before they have taken shape. Alignment lets you move when the step is ready, not a moment sooner. You realize that the field, the unseen web of possibility, is not something to control, but something to join. Here, effort becomes lighter. A conversation flows without rehearsing your words. A door opens without you forcing the handle. This is not luck, and it is not coincidence. It is the gentle truth that when your frequency matches your desire, you and the outcome begin to move toward each other at the same time. Think of a leaf resting on a river. It is carried forward, not by struggle, but by surrender to the current beneath it. Your life begins to feel the same. Decisions are made from stillness, not urgency. You take the call, write the message, step through the doorway, not because you must, but because the moment calls to you. In the language of the quantum mind, this is coherence in motion, the state where your inner signal is so clear that the field moves with it, weaving paths you could never have designed alone. In the language of the heart, it feels like relief. In the body, it feels like unclenching. This flow does not mean life will be without challenge. Even rivers meet rocks, but when you are in alignment, obstacles do not stop you, they shape you. The current bends, slows, or deepens, yet always carries you forward. You are no longer measuring your worth by how hard you can swim upstream. You are learning to trust that the direction is enough. You see now that control was never safety. It was a kind of captivity, binding you to constant effort. The moment you loosen your grip, the path widens. You begin to sense the choreography, the subtle way your smallest choices ripple outward and return to you in unexpected forms. And so you move, not with force, but with the rhythm of something larger than yourself. Each breath is both a step and a surrender. Each moment is both yours and not yours. Somewhere deep inside, you know you have entered the stream that was always waiting. The night has a way of loosening the threads that hold you to the day. You feel them unwind, the weight of unfinished conversations, the silent lists you never wrote down, The quiet hum of things you think you must do, all of it begins to dissolve, not into nothing, but into the soft space where the self you have been slowly gives way to the self you are becoming. You are not chasing this new self. You are not visualizing or demanding it to appear. Tonight, you rest inside it. As you sink into your pillow, you feel the subtle difference, the way your body carries itself. When it is no longer asking for permission to be, you breathe, and the breath feels owned, steady, already aligned with what you once thought was far away. This is the threshold, where waking effort fades into the hypnagogic current. Your conscious mind drifts, but your subconscious is still listening, still taking notes in a language you cannot yet hear. In this space, the observer effect becomes something intimate. Your focus no longer a command, but a quiet acceptance. The frequency you hold here is the blueprint you hand to the field. You imagine not the reaching, but the having. You feel the air in your lungs, as if it is the air of that future moment. You let your muscles rest, as if they already know what it means to live in that reality. You taste the ease, the security, the quiet satisfaction of a life that matches the shape of your inner truth. It is not pretending. It is not even hoping. It is being, without question, without resistance. Like a key resting in a lock it was made for, you fit into the state you once longed for. The mind releases the tension of pursuit. The body adopts the language of completion, and in this quiet rehearsal, the boundary between the imagined and the real begins to dissolve. Neuroplasticity works here like an artist sketching in the dark, forming new patterns of thought, wiring new responses in the nervous system, making the unfamiliar. The quantum flow takes your alignment as instruction, reshaping the pathways of both your inner world and the events that will greet you when you wake. The night carries you deeper, and your dreaming self continues what your waking self began. You walk through rooms you have never entered, speak words you have never spoken, and yet everything feels like home. By morning you will not remember every detail, but your body will. Your choices will lean differently. Your attention will rest on what matches your new state. You do not need to force this. You only need to sleep here, in the feeling of the self who already lives the life you ask for.